Hi, I'm Ben. I'm a designer here at ThinkPlace, and today I want to introduce you to our Victoria Street studio and just go through some ideas as to how we have turned this into a really creative and dynamic place for design thinking. So let's go take a look. Okay, so as you see, we've got a really large open space here. We run workshops here up to sort of 36 people at a time, and so it's important for us to be able to divide up the space and use it to its best advantage. As you can see, we've got whiteboards up on the wall space, and being so open, that wall space is really high priority and quite precious for us. Okay, so the way that we wanted to divide up the space and to use it is to utilise these foam core boards. So these are a full size of a sheet, they're 18mm thick, and the problem we soon encountered was that they don't stand up by themselves. Now, you can prop them up against the wall, and we sort of said the wall space to us is really important, and you can only use one side. So the real design challenge was, how can we provide something to support it, and how can we make use of both sides? How can we create tools that keep up with the flow and the energy in the room? So it was quite important that these were dynamic and easily moved around the workshop as we run it. This was prototype number 1, and it's literally a piece of foam core with a slot in it. As you can see, it does work, but it does have its disadvantages as well. That got us up and running, however, and it does work. Okay, so prototype number 2 took on a whole new different shape. Because of the fact of the base of support there, we used a nice big chunky piece of timber. We had some rails going right up the side of the board. It's really going nowhere, this one here. So a couple of things about it is we actually tapped right through the board, and in size and shape it's quite big and quite chunky. Not very refined, but again, it works, right? And we're experimenting with how high up do we actually have to run a rail or some kind of support so that we can provide a nice sort of rigid board with a nice base of support as well. So lots of weight at the bottom, and we started to get some ideas a little bit more refined than the first one about how wide we needed to go with the size and shape of the brackets or the stands that we were creating. Number 2 went right to this idea, which was to sandwich the board in between this slot cut into the side of the plywood. Again, we've got a nice base of support. We narrowed it in, and we turned this sort of keyway into a nice sort of bracket system to hold it up. And again, it's pretty good. It's got lots of weight, it's got lots of support. However, when we lost the rails, you do get a little bit of this flex, but when you're actually in the middle of a workshop, a little bit of flex like that is actually okay. From there, we just started to try and give it a little bit more style, and so we played around with the idea of just flaring those brackets which hold the board in. So these ones do have little wedges popped in there, because when you cut a slot in the wood like that, it soon becomes quite loose, and you have to, just with the shape of the board, will flex. So we started putting little blocks in there to try and create a nice tight fit. That's probably the main challenge with this idea here. It's just how do you get over the fact that when people are using these things, they just sort of come up to it and just pull it. So it has to be really usable from that point of view. So this prototype is simply a build on the last one, and we increased the angle at which those brackets are grasping the board. It's still got a slot in here. It's just under 18mm, so that we can get a bit more purchase on the board and how it grips the board. By tipping that angle over, we actually increase the surface area as to how much it's actually gripping the board, and it doesn't move too bad. There's lots of weight in this space here. Aesthetically, it looks quite balanced and quite nice, being such a big angle. And so I can push quite a bit on the board here, so I'm going to tip over. The sort of thing about this one, as soon as you put a slot in there that's just under 18mm, it's designed for these boards only. So that led us on to this idea here, which was to adapt the bracket mechanism onto the board so that this guy moves in and out, and it can basically take any size foam core board that you need to. So ours is 18mm, but you can get other sizes, a 5 or a 12mm. And so it's just a little bit more flexible from that viewpoint. And also, just with the foam board being quite soft, sometimes it can take up that shape and become loose over time. So just simply doing this up and down, it's quite user friendly, just having a knob on there. You can just tighten it up when you need to. The thing about this is that it is quite big. It's difficult to put under your arm and take in an aeroplane, and we move around the country and run these types of workshops and events all over the place. So we needed a new angle and sort of a way in which we could make this more mobile. This works really well when you're in a studio in a more permanent position, but I want to talk to you about our mobile version. So I really wanted to make this flat pack, lightweight, travel friendly, something that you could put in your hand luggage and on a plane or on the back of your bicycle, and turn it into something that was much more mobile. So we started again really low res and started to think about how much we actually needed to support the foam core on a vertical axis, so back to the rails from the very first prototype we had, and then how much distance we needed to provide a nice foot for it to be stable. So we just started with foam core again. It's quick and easy. Some of these kind of wacky looking things to see what is the feasibility that this thing will stand up with something that's more affordable than some of the other examples that we've seen. It led on to this guy here, which is similar to a couple of bookends to hold up books on the shelf. The idea being that it is flat pack, it does just simply remove from here. The first ones we were just using thumb screws and T-nuts on the other end, just to create that clamping mechanism that was so important that we learned from the previous ones. Soon became really apparent that the usability of using the tool and an Allen key to get this thing on and off was not really that friendly. And just the next iteration we looked at was how to simplify the design and use some really usable thumb screws and to make it really easy to take apart. That led on to our final looking design here. It's 3 parts, and again it's just a simple matter of taking the shelf off the side. It clamps on the bottom. It's lightweight, and it still gives us the idea that we can still put a thumb pin into the top of the board without having it knock over. There's a little bit of flex there, but it's actually not too bad for what we need. And most importantly, it's mobile. So here's the product flat pack. It's just 6 panels in there, and you have your screws in there as well. It's really easy to put together, as it should be. So just go through, find the 2 parts with the interlocking carving joint here. Just drop into place. Always keep it that way, so grab it on the side. Take the other little window frame piece here. Line up the line up the holes, and then just take the screws, pop them in. 1 and 2. Only discovered it needs 2. Take the other little side, the knob there. Put that in, and you have yourself a little bracket. So this one here is holding up just that thin 5mm, and this one here we'll simply do the 18. Do that up pretty tight, not too tight, and then that gives you a nice sturdy lock to the ThinkStand. So we're calling it ThinkStand. If you're interested, then please get in touch and comment. This is one way of doing it, and one of the key messages out of this is just the power of prototyping and building on people's ideas. There's been many of us in the studio who have made these, both Peter and Martin, and have helped out. So it's a real collaborative sort of thing, and it really reinforces the idea of
iterating and building on other people's ideas. So if you're interested, then drop us a line, or if you've come up with a way of doing this yourself, then we'd love to know. Thanks.